Mojuba, Ibai. I pay homage to all gurus from time immemorial. Kabir, Muhammad, peace be upon him, Buddha, Osiris, Mahavir, Christ, Maharaj Charan Singh Ji, Bhagwan Ra Afrika, libation. Igum Mojiba Ibae. I pay homage to all of my spiritual ancestors who were great realizers and mystics, who left their spiritual legacy, their spiritual blessings, their spiritual DNA, and modeled and demonstrated the God realization that we too can achieve in this very lifetime. Libations. Sangha Mojiba Ibae. I pay homage to all of the great spiritual communities and sanghas from time immemorial, who worked in a spirit of great cooperation to preserve the Dharma in its various forms, the scriptures in oral and written form, architecture, the arts. Libations. Sat Guru Mojiba Ibai. I pay homage to my own living master who loves me, who sacrifices for me each and every moment, who gives me his Dharma wisdom and his sadhana so that I too may duplicate his spiritual condition in this very lifetime. Libations.
For the benefit of those of you who are new to our little gathering, we try to open our satsang with those kinds of gestures, music, and activities to put us in the right mood. And as you will shortly hear, we make use of all of the legacy that is embedded in our music, both ancient and modern. But it's always revolves around the same thing. It's about the love of God. So this secular music that's played from time to time should not be mistaken or degenerated to the level of the romance between a woman and a man. These beautiful songs of love that we are still able to find in contemporary music must be elevated and represent in our mind the love affair that goes on between the devotee and the Lord. Imagine in your mind what happens when one meets one Lord. I think, Roger, you have the wrong song. You have the wrong music. Roger Vitta likes to play Roger Vitta music. It's always good, but if you will play the songs as instructed, beloved, that will be fine. Okay, disc number 3, number 11. Turn the light on for him, Brahmaji, so you can see. As you can see, we are spontaneous. If we're black people, we know how to do that, don't we? But the whole song art is going to help. All right. So it's easy to imagine in your mind what might have happened when these great mystics encountered their teachers, their gurus. This 3, song number 11. All right, if you don't have it, just dispense with the music. We can move forward. We don't want to waste a lot of time if you're confused back there. Are you straight or are you confused? Disc number 3, it should have a 3 on it. Okay. And what is number 11 on that disc, beloved? In any case, forget about the music. Let's move forward. Is there something you would like to discuss? And you can bring the disc here to me, both of them. And we'll see if we can get you back on track. Something you rascals would like to discuss in the meantime? You're most welcome. Say disc 3, this does say disc 4, right? It's number 11. That what you were playing, number 11? Try number 12. Should we give them another chance? Yeah. Should I rock the room and come in again? All over again? Huh? Broken your mood? That's what confusion does. It breaks the mood. Take number 4, beloved. 21. Let's have a moment of silence. because of your sewa. I dedicate these two songs to you, beloved 20 and 24. The numbers was reversed. So if you all will let me indulge my friend here. We've had a very interesting relationship over these last 30 so years, you see. People have related to me in various ways, and each of you have your own ideal about who I am and what I am to you, but between me and Roger Vida, it has always been clear from day one. I am your Saki, I am your friend. And those two songs is just to remind you that our love is here to stay. Play your songs for yourself, beloved.
Saw you there, and your laughter seemed to fill the air.
Rascals would like to discuss? Or some topic you would like me to comment on? You're most welcome to suggest. Yes, come on.
I've been trying to decide some of the considerations you had given earlier on the death process. And for what I could come up with so far, it is kind of fortress-like, like I said, to look at it. And I wanted to know if you could kind of help me understand what can I expect to experience in the afterlife process if I haven't learned how to manage these negative states.
Gotcha. Of course, every adept always have made the first topic of discussion in his or her sangha, the discussion of death. Because it is the lesson on death that serves as a psychological foundation for any real spiritual practice, you see. Without having gotten the lesson of death, you simply would never become a serious practitioner. In fact, until and unless you get the lesson of death, you won't even become a serious person. You will always tend to be superficial in everything that you do, whether it's Paramatha, spiritual life and living, or Swartamatha. So it's very important that you get this lesson. And I have offered you all in the past many considerations, purpose to achieve just that level of seriousness that the path will require of you, which some of you I've asked you to revisit it to help you overcome your momentary regression back into becoming a non-serious person. That lesson of death entails many things, of course. But the first thing that each and every one here have to do is really understand and accept the reality of your mortality. You really are going to die. This ego self, this person that you think you are, this body that you think you are, this psychophysical entity that makes up your entire sense of self is coming to an end. You will die. Make no mistake about it. But it is never enough to simply philosophically accept our eventual death and die. It's just philosophy. So everybody can say, yes, Bhagwan, I realize I'm going to die. But that mere intellectual and philosophical realization will not transform you. You must truly ponder the statements that these great gurus and adepts make. You see, you must let it sink deep into your psyche. And one of the means by which you accomplish that is by the use of your imagination, your capacity to imagine what your death and dying will consist of. So I have asked you on past occasions to find out a few things about it as best you can, understanding that nobody knows exactly when or under what circumstances they will die. But be that as it may, you still need to have some kind of plan on how you will handle the dying and death process of life. To live without a plan on how you're going to handle dying and death is to live recklessly and foolishly. So like with any other plan, you have to try to anticipate. It's like you make plans for the future, right? In your ordinary life. But in the same way, you must make plans for your eventual dying and death. And those plans have to be more than financial, more than buying an insurance policy and doing some estate planning and writing a will and getting an executor and all of that. That's not much preparation for the great event. There must be a kind of spiritual plan that you have. But before, you see, beloved, you can do all of that, you have to first try to get a sense of when you're going to die. Now, you know you're going to die, is that right? All right? The question before you is when. You don't know for sure, but you know it's going to be between now and some point in the future, right? So in your mind, right now, think of when you might die. Knowing all the time that you don't know for sure, but on your best intuition and guess, when do you think you're going to die? So you may be 40 years old sitting there, and your parents, you can look at your parents and their genetic history and all of that. You see my point? You know your bodily condition as it is right now, right? You know your lifestyle, right? If you're drugging and drinking, then you know the factor that into your calculation. Is that about right?
Yep.
So calculate in all of your dietary restrictions and poor eating habits, your overeating, lack of sleeping, rest, blah, 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 blah. Are you all following me?
Yes, sir.
So now, try to imagine, try to anticipate when you will be entering into the dying and then death stage of life. Do that for a minute. When you're going to die. You know you're going to die. Now, good. I don't want it to be at the mere philosophical level. Let's see when. Let's X date it. Try to make it as real as possible. You're 40 years old. What do you think? You'll make it to 80? Mom and dad lived 80? Okay. Give yourself the benefit of the average time that a black man and black woman dies. You know what I mean? Base it on the statistics. I will grant you, you know, the statistical lifetime. All right? What is it for black men? What's the statistical lifetime for a black man in America? How? Who said 34? It's not 34. How far is it?
64.
64, he said.
64?
Yeah.
No, it's got to be better than that, isn't it?
72.
72?
Yeah.
All right, that sounds about right. 72.6, okay. All right, so black men in here, you got, statistically, we're going to give you up to 72 years old. What is the mortality for black women? What is the statistic? 78. Okay, Marataji's done his homework. That's right, 78, okay? And that's barring acts of accident and if somebody don't murder you and so forth and so on. So you got the 78 black women, black men, you got the 72.6. In your current condition now, okay? Let's enter into the exercise. Running Kamar, we might as well all do it. That way I won't get 25 phone calls later. What will you die from? That's the next question. You know your lifestyle, don't you? You smoke, you drink, you eat barbecue every other day or whatever it is. You know your lifestyle, right? So the question is, what are you going to die from? Will it be cancer? We rule out murder, so I protected you from being murdered. You're not going to die in a plane crash, right? But you got to die from something, and you will die from something. Now, you can start getting an idea of that based on where you're at now and how you've been living now. So what do you think you're going to die from? Some prostate cancer? Some breast cancer? Will you have heart failure, heart trouble? You think about it for a minute. And remember, be as honest as you can. Not what you want to die from, what you will probably die from based on how you've been living, how you've been eating, how you've been interacting, how your emotions and stress and all of that. What are you going to die from? Because you are going to die. And you will have a terminal illness, for sure. The question is, what will you die from? Will it be alcoholism, sclerosis of the liver, or what is it going to be? How many have got an idea of this so far? Is everybody following me here?
Yes.
Don't just sit there and not participate. Don't stand back in yourself and dismiss this exercise as being, oh, this is just a verbal. No. You're going to die. And part of your lack of preparation for that dying and death will be your denial that you're indulging in right now. Because if you're in denial, you definitely will not be in a state of preparedness for it. Your denial would have precluded you making a plan. Now, I will not exhaust this, but there is another question that you must add to this consideration. Because we're considering your dying and death, aren't we? That's what you must personally consider as your dying and death. Now that you got an idea of when you will die, you got an idea of what you will die from, where will you die? It's the next issue. Not where you want to die. Where do you think you will logically spend the last 3 days of your life? Maybe in some cases, if those of you who know that you probably would develop some kind of form of cancer and then suffer for 5 or 10 years and all of that, then you see you can really start filling in the pieces, can't you? But where will you die at? Not where you want to die. The circumstances under which you want to die, and I'm not asking you that, because everybody want to die at home at a ripe old age, surrounded by loved ones, relatives, friends, blah, 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 blah. I'm not asking you how you want to die. I'm asking you, how will you probably die based on your present way of life and living? Where you think you're going to die at? And what will be the circumstances? Will it be in the hospital hooked up to some tubes? Is that probably where you're going to die? The statistics say that's where most of you are going to die. Doesn't it?
Yes, sir.
Is that right? Most of you are going to die in a hospital room. Hooked to some tubes. On a breathing machine or something like that. Or if you don't die there, what's the other possibility?
Nursing home.
Nursing home. Is that about right?
Yes, sir.
So where do you think you're going to die? What do you think? Where do you think your final days and hours of life will be? And what will be the circumstances? Will your children all be around your bedside and visiting you every day and all of that? I mean, imagine with me what's in store for you. A few more things you have to consider. We won't linger on this, but where better than in a cemetery to discuss matters like this? So we have satsang here to get you serious. So how would you handle the dying of the body? How are you going to handle that? Based on what you have diagnosed would be your terminal illness. How many of you diagnosed maybe cancer? We have some cancer people? Okay, good. All right, cancer comes with pain, right? At the of a body. How are you going to handle? Will you be prepared to handle the pain that you will experience at the level of your body as you go through the physical part of the dying from cancer?
Not without medication.
Even with medication, right? So you know you're going to need some medication, right? You already know you that unprepared that you're going to need you some morphine drip, 2 or 3 of them, right? Mhm. And there is a level of pain that you can't even deal with. But even if you are able to have some kind of miraculous palliative care, which is very unlikely, but you can hope that you will have it. Nevertheless, you're going to have some physical discomfort, aren't you? How are you going to handle the reality that your physical body has been reduced to a state where you're never going to even walk again? You're not going to run again. You're not going to climb no more steps. You're not going to have no more sex. You're not going to drive your car again, right? You have ceased to be a social person. You are no longer a social entity whatsoever. You're a patient now. And a patient is not equal to a person in the eyes of the medical profession. You're a patient. That's what they call you. You're a non-social entity. So you're laying there in your hospital bed, racked with pain in the body on your morphine drip. In and out of waves of pain and so forth and so on. So you're probably going to have a pretty good struggle with just coping with and managing the physical ordeal of dying. Is that about right? Well, that's not all of it, is it? How are you going to handle the emotional ordeal of dying? How are you going to handle that? Are you prepared to handle that? Based on where you are at now, based on your present level of spiritual and psychological development, are you right now prepared to handle the emotional and psychological ordeal of dying? And do not bullshit yourself about it. No, I don't want any answers. I just want you to consider this argument. Because there will be an emotional and psychological ordeal that you will have to undergo, won't it?
Yes, sir.
How are you going to handle the separation from your family? Mothers, you're not going to be mothers anymore, so that's the end of your motherhood. That's the end of your fatherhood. You're not a husband anymore. You're not a wife anymore. You will not be able to engage any of those roles. All your roles are over. That about right? All right. How will you emotionally and psychologically handle that? Are you prepared to handle that? Based on where you're at now. Now remember, if you sit in the audience, you're 55, you're going to be dead at 72, you don't have a long time to get ready, do you? You got a big emotional, spiritual, and psychological gap to cover, and you ain't got much time to cover that and close that gap. You are still way away from being adequately prepared to really deal with the ordeal of dying. So just the emotional and psychological challenge that you will be confronted with is enough to get your attention here. But how will you handle all of that? How will you handle it? Will you be able to handle it? Part of that emotional and psychological ordeal is going to fill you with great depression. Is that about right? Okay. Those are some of the psychological and emotional experience that you will undergo. Great depression, right? Great anger. And how will you handle the dementia part of it? Because the mind also starts dissolving during the dying process. Your mind is going out, right? Now, we don't have time to go over every little detail about the process, but in your personal reflection and consideration, you must sit down and you must really consider this argument for real. Otherwise, you will not become a serious individual, period. You will not be serious in the world, and you certainly will not be serious on any kind of spiritual path at all. And you're still going to die. Now, laying there in your dying stage, looking back over your life, ask yourself the question, what could you have done to be better prepared for this moment now in your life where you are entering into the dying process? Reflect on that. You have hit that number, you're at the end of it, you're 72 or whatever it is, you're laying there, you're going through this ordeal, right? You're confronted with your lack of preparation for the ordeal. You see? Now reflect. Because you will be doing that on your deathbed. You will be reflecting. Damn. All of it will come to you, then you'll get it. You'll get what you could have done and should have done for the sake of being better prepared to handle the reality of your dying and death. So try to see that now. This is what you must consider. What changes do you have to make right now if you're going to have a chance in hell at being adequately prepared to deal with the reality of your dying and ultimately your death, and then the after-death experience? Because death is not the end of it, right? Now, Randy Kamara, your question was, well, what can we expect after death? Because there will be some more, the after-death ordeal, right? I've just been talking to you about the ordeal of dying, right? But you still got to handle the after-death ordeal. And are you prepared to handle that? Do you think you unprepared to even handle this side of death and dying, but in your deluded state, you actually think you're going to handle the ordeal of the after-death experience like it's a piece of damn cake? Well, it is not. And what does it consist of? Well, it consists of all of those actions under the influence of your anger, lust, greed, attachment, and vanity. That's what you have to go through in the after-death experience, all of the consequences of that, all of the hurt that you've done in your moment of rage. You hurt people, breaking people's heart, hurting people's feelings. That's what you get to experience. It's really interesting in Christian mysticism, and it's so unfortunate that many of us grew up Christian and have almost no concept of the esoteric dimension of Christianity. And because of that, we abandon it. Be that as it may. There is a great esoteric tradition in Christianity, you see, as there is in every other religion. And one of the reasons that these mystics put so much emphasis on controlling the anger, because again, anger is that kind of emotion that always make you want to do what? Hurt somebody, right? Yeah. And that's exactly what you do when you get angry. You hurt somebody, because that's what happens. So if you look in the literature in Christian esoteric tradition, what you'll find, the illustration of the part of the after-death ordeal that is associated with your failure to manage your anger is to be put on the rack. They put you, they draw the rack, y'all know the rack, the big wheel, and just hurt you. In some tradition, they represent the consequence of your anger in the afterlife in the form of your being dismembered continuously. The angry person, each limb is slowly cut away, and they have to go through that pain, you see, of being dismembered. And then once the entire body has been dismembered, they put it back together again and repeat it over and over. You experience being dismembered while alive, so that you may have all of the hurt and pain that you caused other people. Therefore, the adept said, get this anger under control. Otherwise, you will wind up on a rack somewhere in the after-death experience, you see. So each of those 5 perverted states of mind are represented in a kind of scenario of what your experience will be in the after-death. Okay? So I don't wish to take up the entire evening just going over that. Much of that stuff you can read and find out about yourself. But certainly during the medieval period, there was a great movement focused on what they called the ars moriente, the art of dying. You might want to research it. And the whole idea was so that you could have a good death, right? But you can't have a good death unless you had a good what? Did that make sense to y'all?
Yes, sir.
The odor defunctorum, the death that cannot be any better than the life that preceded it. So this is what it is that you have to really, really start considering. You got to get serious. You got to grow up. You got to grow up. And you got to change. And change for the sake of being prepared to handle the dying, death, and after-death experiences that still is awaiting you. Because you're surely going to die here. Care how scared you is of dying, you're still going to die. Care how much you don't like talking about death, you're still going to die. Aren't you?
Yes, sir.
And now you can get for yourself right now, and you can get a good idea of how you're going to go through the dying process right now, simply by looking at where you are at now, psychologically and spiritually. Look where you are at right now. And if you don't change, then this present condition is the condition you will be in when you die. Don't that make sense?
Yes, sir.
If you don't become more spiritual, more psychologically developed than you are right now in this very moment, then this is the condition that you will go have to transact these processes with. You will not suddenly become enlightened as you start dying. You will not be able to withdraw the attention from the body up to the third till and beyond when you enter the dying process if you can't do it now. That's not going to happen. Is it?
No.
You can't get detached now, right? You're having all this trouble getting detached? Is that about right? That's what I hear all the time. Emails on the cooler tapes, your problem. You can't get detached. You're struggling like, I can't get detached. Well, you're going to be on your dying bed. You can't take a drink. Now what you going to do? How you going to handle that? You know what it feels like now, right? You can't get your drink on. You can't get your drug on. You can't get your sex on. You can't get your that on. Right? Okay, now, there you are, laying on your deathbed, hooked up to tubes. You might be hooked up for 5 or 6 months. You can't drink now. Okay, now how you going to handle that? You're going to suffer, aren't you?
Yes.
Sooner or later, you're going to have to detach. Sooner or later, you will have to become detached. You ain't going to be able to go home and play with your kids and run their life. How you going to do that? Laying up in the hospital hooked up to some damn tubes. You ain't going to be available to run nobody's life. Are you?
No.
Then, okay, so what you going to do now? Your life revolves around your family and your kids and all of that, your job. You ain't going to have none of that. Okay, now what you going to do? Huh? Are you confident? Are you as sure that in your present state of spiritual and psychological development you got what it takes to handle that? Are you confident about that? You all right with that? You want to take your chances? Some people say, well, Bhagwan, I'll take my chances. Okay, go ahead and take your chance. But death is real. Dying is real. Philosophy may not be real. Dying, death is real. So running Kamar, that was my intent in offering you that consideration to revisit. Fundamentally, what I ask those who I've had that kind of conversation with is to really examine themselves and see to what degree they are truly spiritually and psychologically prepared to handle the inevitability of their own mortality, and all that that involves, dying, death, and the after-death experience. Are you ready? I mean, y'all over 50, ain't some of y'all over 50? Ain't some of y'all getting close? Are you ready? Are you even close to ready? So there it is, you see. So each and every one of us have to personally consider that. But you cannot just continue to live your life pretending as if death is not going to occur with you. Naive, you follow what I'm saying? Deluded. And all your philosophy and memorization of the teachings in the Dharma will be to no avail whatsoever. You can hold your little Bible by your bedside as tight as you want. It's not going to help you. The Quran is not going to help you in those moments. Either you have got what it takes or you don't. No sense in hoping. And then there on your deathbed, one of the emotional forms of suffering that almost everybody have is the suffering of regret. You're just full of regret. You're just laying there regretting how you have wasted your whole lifetime. So that wisdom that automatically is bequeathed on you on your deathbed, that wisdom can be had now. All you got to do is think about it honestly and seriously and become wise. And therein lies the value of the consideration on the reality of your death and dying. It makes you wise. Otherwise, you can read all the books in the world. You will not become wise. Books are not the source of wisdom. The recognition of your own immortality and the inevitability of your dying and the after-death ordeal and the ability to handle all of that, that's wisdom. Otherwise, you're just a fool and you're living like a fool. It's a kind of psychological and spiritual irresponsibility, you see? I mean, you all are putting money in your 401ks and all that, right? Got your savings account going, you put X amount of dollars in there because you know one day you're going to have to retire, right? You're not going to be able to work. So a reasonable person, a rational person, a sane person makes some kind of sacrifices and adjustment for that eventuality, right? You know, you're going to hit 65 and you're going to get retired. You're going to need some money. Ain't nobody going to take care of you. Government is going to, that Social Security check ain't going to cut it. You know what I mean? And you don't want to eat dog food. So knowing all of these things, right? You make preparation for yourself, don't you? Well, some people do. The vast majority of people don't even have that much sense to make financial preparation for their retirement. They're just hoping they'll win the lottery by the time they're 65 or some silly thing like that. But granted, everybody in here can see how that makes sense. Okay. So how are you, what is your spiritual 401k looking like? Mm-hmm. How many hours of simmering and budgeting and DN are you putting into your spiritual account for it to occur with interest so that you may be able to handle this? Nothing. Very little. And God got a great 401k, you know. He put in 100 times more than you do. You know, your employer just 50-50, right? God gives you 100 times your deposit. But what are you depositing? And you come up with all kind of nonsense about it, you see. So you simply can't live a spiritual way of life without necessarily having a very, very mature and practical plan on dealing with your dying and your death and your after-death experiences, as well as the dying of all those that you attach to. Because everybody you attach to is going to die sooner or later. If you don't die, they'll die on you. That's how it goes down here. Then what you going to do? Katabaji gave a beautiful satsang, you see, and then he discovered that he wasn't prepared for the loss of his mother. He had made no preparation for that. Is that right, beloved? You had thought your mama wasn't going to die. You thought you were exempt, right? Certainly that she wasn't going to die then. That wasn't part of your plan, was it? That's how it goes. Our elder Beaver is laying there dying. That wasn't her part of her plan, was it? So how would you even handle that? Do you even have the psychological and spiritual strength to even handle the death and dying of those that you are attached to? Can you even handle losing your job? I mean, it gets ridiculous, doesn't it? You don't even have enough psychological and spiritual development to handle, you know what I mean, the loss of anything. So how in the world are you going to handle the loss of your entire world at the time of your death? You're going to lose the whole world, not know the job, the whole world. And how are you going to handle that? Well, that's what spirituality is about. It's about preparing oneself for that. That's all it's about. You see? Radha Swamiji was saying in one of his bhashan that to those devotees who were gathered around his deathbed, you see, who were wailing and weeping and very concerned and so forth and so on, and Radha Swamiji reminded them that he has been practicing his avyasa since the age of 6, and he has been practicing it just for this moment, that when I die, I don't forget the holy names and lose contact with the Shah. That's the whole purpose of this practice. You are to practice your avyasa strictly for the purpose of that moment as you enter into the dying process, nearing your death, that you don't lose contact with that Shabbat, that you are able to do your mantra and keep the feet of the Guru in your mind. That's the whole point. If your practice is being engaged in and does not mature to that point, then at the time of death, literally, you have wasted, that's been wasted. Because the bottom line is what? You gotta be prepared at the time of dying and death. That's the bottom line. Care how much bhajan and simran you was able to do prior to that, is how much bhajan and simran can you do in this moment. That's the issue. Well, many of you can't even do bhajan and simran when your body is healthy. Can you? Can you? You can't remember your simran. You can't do dhyan. You hear no shabbat. And you nowhere even close to the dying process yet. So how you propose to be able to do that in that moment? And unless you can withdraw your attention from your body, mind, and feelings during the dying process, you will have no other perforce but to suffer. Will you? You have no alternative but to suffer. And you will not have a good death. You will not have a good death at all. You will not even have a good dying process. Nothing else to say about it. You must take God and spiritual life and living serious. And the problem with most of you here, problem with most of those who are not in here, is that people are not serious. You're not a serious person. You want other people to perceive you as serious, so you come up with all this propaganda and do all this talking and philosophizing, making all of the signs and gestures as if you were a serious person. But at 3 o'clock in the morning, when it's time to throw down, then your superficial disposition is revealed, even to yourself. Does any of this make sense to you? So somehow or another, you're going to have to look at all of these things that I've said thus far. Not only today, but even in the past. I mean, you really have to sit down with all of this. You must find some kind of way to resort to this higher power that is in you. You got to contact grace. And if you haven't contacted grace while alive, you will not contact grace in the dying process. You must contact grace while you have a chance to contact grace. That's what Jesus meant when he said you must walk while there is light. When that dark phase of your life comes, nobody can walk in the dark. You must get this grace of God now. That's the purpose of spiritual practice, is to come in contact with the grace. The spiritual practice itself does not do the work. It's the grace that does the work. Your spiritual practice simply opens up a way for grace to descend and invade into your life. And grace does this work. See, you all believe in the efficacy of your psychological and philosophical and intellectual strategies, you see. Your mind is your guru, and you depend on it for coming up, concocting certain kinds of strategies by which implementing you expect to liberate yourself from your sorrows and suffering, you see. You do not turn to God. The mind is not the source of grace. Your damn intellect is not the source of grace. Your intellect has nothing to do with your heartbeat and the circulation of your blood. Does it?
No. Sir.
That's grace. Isn't it?
Yes, sir.
And the truth of the matter is, beloved, is that you all have lost faith in grace, and you doubt grace. You doubt the reality of grace. You doubt that there is a God. Your little individual doubt. I remember you were talking about your doubt, lack of faith. That's doubt and lack of faith fundamentally in the existence of a God. That's the real doubt. Don't matter how much you don't have faith in chocolate. That ain't no big deal. You have faith in God. You doubt God. You doubt grace. How in the world can you doubt the reality of grace when your heart is sitting here beating? To doubt grace is to doubt your own very existence, moment to moment. But you people, you doubt grace. And because of your doubt, grace, you are endlessly involved in your own little click and clack, your own little project, your own little schemes, your own thinking. Experimenting with endless strategies by which you can liberate yourself from suffering. How would you do that? With your little bit of strategy and your little tiny intellect. But you doubt grace. You do not turn to God. You do not turn to grace. And grace is what does the work. It is grace that has brought you into existence, maintains it. Do you all follow what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
And so the question is, how are you getting your daily needs for grace met? How are you getting your daily dose of grace? How do you do that? I'm reminded during the times of Swami Ji Maharaji, in one conversation, one letter to Saligram, his successor and his chief disciple, he was reminding Saligram that he must make sure that he gets his 3 hours of grace in a day, right? If he wished to remain spiritually healthy. You see, it's that kind of a thing, isn't it? If you don't get enough grace, you become spiritually sick. What is the sign that you are suffering from the malnutrition and lack of grace? You become trapped up in all this shit that you're involved in. You become addicts and, pathological consumers, demented, depressed, distracted. Those are all signs that you are malnourished. You're not getting enough, you're not taking in enough grace. The grace is available, you're simply not getting and meeting your daily requirements of grace. You don't think grace is necessary. Do you? Apparently you don't. You figure you can do it. Is that about right? Okay, well, go ahead, keep trying. So meditation then is the means by which we open ourselves up to grace. And then grace does the work. It's all grace. But you must turn to grace. Something else to discuss? Yes, beloved.
Earlier, before you started the set song, you briefly spoke on your relationship with Roger Vera, the friend relationship, and that it was clear from day one. Could you speak go into more detail about that friend relationship and the different Babas, the relationships?
Almost all of the great love stories that you find in spiritual literature that exist between a disciple and a guru has that quality. Rumi and Cham Tabriz, you see. Rumi and always referred to Cham Tabriz as the friend. If you read the sutras of Kabir and so forth and so on, they talk about the friend, the spiritual friend. This kind of friendship is a kind of quality that exists between a functional guru-disciple relationship. Now, I don't mean friend in the mere conventional sense of the word, but friend in the best sense of the word. Friendship is a situation where there's no doubt. You see my point? Now, Roger Vitter and I, you know, he's not my only friend. I'm his only friend, so let's get that straight. Get that straight first, okay? But I think if you would ask him, he would tell you that over the course of years, and under all circumstances, that he never had any doubt that if there was something that he needed that I have, that I would do. You see? So our relationship has been characterized by this lack of doubt. You see? The guru-disciple relationship simply does not function where there's doubt. How can it? But you see, between me and Roger Vitter, we're not trying to make a relationship in the abstract. Our relationship is made right here on earth. We've interacted for 30 years. If you don't know me by now, you would never know me. You're not going to know anything about me reading books. I'm right here. All right? So he did not make the error of trying to build a relationship with me via the literature, as most of you have, you see? As if I'm not in front of you. I doubt your love for me. On what basis do you make that claim? You see? I doubt that you are my guru. Well, am I acting like your guru for the last 10 years? So what is the basis of your doubt? I doubt that I can trust you. Have I done anything to you that warrants that mistrust? So if I'm here before you and you cannot even have the experience of my friendship, how would you have the experience of my divinity? How are you going to pull that off? You can't even have the ordinary experience that I am your friend. Then you will not have the experience that I'm your guru. Ever. Just imagination. So we are friends. And we do what friends do for each other. And we don't need sarbash to maintain that relationship. But this is how it always is, you see. Now, from that it can evolve, no doubt about it, you see. But that has to be the foundation, the basis of it all. A friend is someone you trust. You trust a friend. So when you confess, oh, I don't trust the Guru, then you simply, you see, are confessing that you don't trust me, who I am. Not no claims, but just who I am and have been in your relationship with you. Checking your relationship with me. And that's where you do the work, not based on what you read on page 12 in some books. And so recently I was talking to little James, Roger Vitter's son, and I was telling him, you see, that your goal is to become a friend like your daddy, because he's getting old. I'm lining up my next friend, so I called him Sakiji, the friend, you see. So somehow you have to have a very real relationship with the Guru. That's what I mean. You see, the one you call Guru, you need to have a real kind of relationship with the Guru. You know? Otherwise, you just create a cult. You know what I mean? You project, and then you relate to that projection. Now, perhaps the relationship between Radha Swamiji Maharaj, and Huzur Maharaj, Saligram, epitomizes the very height of the Guru-disciple relationship. I mean, there are many beautiful examples that we find in history. Sham Tabriz and Rumi, you all are familiar with that, and Kabir and Sharandas, Mira and Bai, and Ravidas, and so forth and so on. But certainly in these modern times, you see, that was just a little over a couple hundred years ago. There was the Swamiji Maharaj and there was Huzur Maharaj. And they demonstrated this great thing. Maybe one day I'll bring some of the letters. The literature has some copies of the letters from Huzur Maharaj to Swamiji and Swamiji's letters back to Huzur Maharaj, and maybe I'll read them to you all so that you can get some kind of right and real understanding, you see, of what's going on. So the Saki aspect paves the way and is the foundation for any individual becoming Guru, you see. Now I was talking with Ramaji, was it a couple of weeks ago, and asking him to do some things, so forth and so on. I even was talking to Bilal because, you know, it's very hard for this Sangha to really become everything that it has the potential to become without a Guru book. And telling them that, you know, I don't have any Guru book. I mean, I'm trying to do this by myself. I don't have a Guru book there. Because this Saligram Maharaj was Swamiji Maharaj Guru. And you can't build any kind of spiritual community without a Guru. You can have a Guru can be all in everything. But if there's not a Guru Mukha, the Sangha can't flourish. Nothing can happen. So I'm simply waiting for the Guru Mukha. The ultimate friend to appear. And once that happens, we start pruning this thing. You see, no more public people just walking in, getting the hit of philosophy. That's over with. There'll be no more access. You follow what I'm saying? Because then it's about me and the Guru. And then the freak show is over. You casual attenders, well, you have to find someplace else to go for your philosophical hit. All of the Radasis who are struggling, adios. I'll leave you to your families and television. It's me and the Guru. You read the stories, right? Cham, Tabriz, Rumi. That was it for Rumi, right? Rumi said, adios to 10,000 disciples, he said. Adios. Cham, Tabriz is here. So maybe that's why Maharaji doesn't send a Guru Mukh, because then you all will be deprived. Right? So my suffering is your good fortune. But surely, sooner or later, Maharaji will not be that cruel to me. And will send me my Guru and release me from the clutches of all these superficial people who are playing at it. Right? You're playing at it. I was telling Victor about Mary J. You all know Mary J., right? Mary J. Blige? Young people know Mary J. Blige. But it's a cut on one of her CDs. My daughters gave me one of her CDs for a gift. And one of the songs on there was depicting her relationship with this guy, right? And he was a player, right? Women can identify with this, right? He's a player. His gift to her. You know, players think they're a gift from God to women and all that. You see, player. And Mary J. was telling the player in the lyrics of the song that, you know, she had moved from that point. You see, she ready for some real love, right? And looking for a real man. You know, that she don't want no player shit. You follow what I'm saying? I feel like Mary J. I'm not interested in no player shit. Playing like you are interested in spiritual matters. I'm not interested in that. I'm looking for a guru. But until then, you know, I got some time, so I come out here and answer your questions. Almost always they're the same. You see, looking for some kind of justification or rationalization for your reluctance to rightly prepare yourself, you see, for the inevitability of your own dying and death. So would you all like me to bring next satsang?
Bring some letters.
Bring a couple of those letters and read a little bit?
Yeah.
I'll bring a little bit. So that you can see what the standard is. All right? You can get a sense from Saligram's life and living and relationship with Swamiji Maharaj, you get some kind of sense of what it really means to be devoted. You must see a demonstration of devotion. And Saligram, without any doubt, demonstrated for the Sangha that he was a part of, this is what it looks like to be devoted to the Guru. He made that demonstration. It was magnificent. I simply have nobody around me who is capable of making such a demonstration. I have no Guru. I got some wannabe Gurus. But thank God I got a friend, or two, or three, or four, or five. And so that's good enough for me. Now with that said, we have some old business, Ketira and I, so come Ketira quickly. Closer, closer, closer. Closer. And so as we talk to you and I promise you that when you came to home again, that I will give you the name that I have kept from you from day one. Most of you by now obviously know that when I enter into a relationship, when I start getting serious about you, one of the things I do is offer you a new name, big name, and all of that stuff, you know what I mean? But in Ketira's case, when she came, Heru Kepara, for those of you who don't know Heru Kepara, Ketira was married to him at the time, decided that he had a big name that he thought would fit you very well, and you have used that big name, Ketira, from day one. Right? And Ketira means something like one who speaks her mind. straightforward and so forth and so on. And those of you who know Kathy Rock pretty much know Heru Kepara was on the money, right, in some respects, right? Because she will speak her mind. But he missed the point that she will also speak her heart. And so I have kept the name that I would have given her all these years. And so on this occasion, I can now have the pleasure of giving it to you now that you've asked for it. I can't give if you don't ask. And the name that I have chosen for you, beloved, is related to this matter of one who speaks their heart. And by heart, I mean the heart of understanding. You see, one who speaks with their heart, the heart that is rooted in profound understanding. You see? When one comes from the heart, there's a certain force in their way that they come, because it's the force of the heart that is speaking. And you can feel the force of it. It's what Heru Kepara would call that straightforward quality, but that's the city of the heart. That's the heart speaking. Opened, flowing. Heart again means being sincere, telling you really what is being felt in the moment. You see? Not playing games with people. And not playing games with their hearts. Nor is it simply based on impulse thinking in the moment. Because usually, you see, beloved, you reflected on it. You're trying to share what you have understood. Not just the love of your head, but also at the love of your heart and living. And you try to share that with great force, with great power. So there's a name for that quality in a person when their heart really communicates their understanding. Straightforward, no games playing. Cutting around all of the bullshit, getting down to it. Spoken with great authority. And sometimes that will upset people because the authority of the heart comes through your argument, right? And the feeling is that, well, what makes you think you know what you're talking about? Well, it's not a knowing. I'm talking about what I'm feeling. I'm talking about what's in my heart. How can I doubt what's in my heart? The authority in her speech is not rooted in her intellect. It's in her heart. So over these 10, 11 years, this Dharma is gotten into your heart. And it has released in you the understanding of the heart. There's a kind of intelligence of the heart. And the intelligence of the heart looks entirely different from the intelligence of the intellect. The intelligence of the heart transforms you, don't it? The intelligence that is merely generated by your reasoning doesn't transform anything about you. And when this intelligence of your heart, this understanding of your heart begin to occur in your case, you see, beloved, for the first time you started really practicing. Is that about right, beloved? Because because you understand the Dharma now at the level of your heart. And that understanding is uncompromising. So naturally, sometimes you will feel in your interaction with Ketira that she's not compromising. She's stubborn, right? She is. She is stubborn. Highly opinionated, yes, right. But not at the level of her head. That's what you opinionated at. It's at the level of her heart. And we've been together through good and bad. That's all right? And we have accepted each other in spite of our imperfections, shortcomings, and faults. She too has been a Saki for me. And I have given her to you all to be a Saki for you. And so, beloved, I give you today your true big name. And the name that means one who functions out of a heart of understanding. Sahasa, G, right, Africa. Sahasa, one who conducts the force of the heart that understands.